What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, undefeated 3-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the WBO, World Boxing Organization welterweight world champion, who is widely considered by many to be the #1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, and Terence "Bud" Crawford, 38 wins, no losses, no draw, 29 big wins by way of knockout. Terence Crawford is 34 years of age, stands at 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. With that said, he's coming off of one of the biggest wins of his career, defeating 2-time welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, Showtime Sean Porter, November 20th of 2021. With that said, Terence Crawford, he parted ways with his longtime promoter, legendary promoter, top-ranked CEO and promoter Bob Arum. And Terence Crawford is now a network promotional free agent, and he seems to be the focal point for many fighters. One in particular is British superstar, middleweight title contender, who is an IBO champion and the WBA interim champion, and that's British superstar boxer Chris Eubanks Jr. Chris Eubanks Jr. is campaigning at 160 currently right now. Chris Eubanks is 32 wins, 2 losses, no draw, 23 big wins by way of knockout. He is 32 years of age, 5'11" with a 72-inch arm reach. With that said, Chris Eubanks, he calls out Terence Crawford, stated that he would love a fight with Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford is a big name, considered the best fighter, or if not one of the best fighters in the world. And Chris Eubanks Jr., he wants to prove himself. So he stated that a fight between him and Terence Crawford would be a great fight, and a fight that he would look forward to. He wants to make it happen. Now we know Chris Eubanks Jr. was also ringside when fellow countryman Kell Brook, former IBF welterweight world champion, British superstar boxer, and 2-division world champion, British superstar boxer, Amir King Kong, they fought. And after that, there was some, obviously, he let it be known that there's some tension between himself and Kell Brook. Kell Brook won the fight against Amir Khan, knocking Amir Khan out in the 6th round. Chris Eubanks Jr., he started to then campaign for a fight between himself and Kell Brook. Kell Brook, he told him, if you can't make 154, if you can't come down there, don't call out my name. Chris Eubanks, he fought as high as 168, then he fought at 160, and now he fights at 160. My opinion is this: Chris Eubanks is definitely a good fighter, but I truly feel like Chris Eubanks and Terence Crawford, that would be a good fight. But Chris Eubanks, he made it clear he can't come down to 154, okay? Terence Crawford campaigns at 147. Chris Eubanks campaigns at 160. There's big names, big fights in and around Chris Eubanks' division. Chris Eubanks, if he really wants to test himself, go back up to 160. He's 5'11" with a 72-inch arm reach. Very big, okay? And he's the son of a legend, Nigel Benn. And so with that said, he's definitely a superstar, definitely a big name. But Terence Crawford is not the name Chris Eubanks Jr. should be looking forward to, nor calling out. And he shouldn't be calling out Kell Brook. He should be looking to call out the likes of Jamal Charlo, who is now going to be facing off against Jaime Munguia in June. Those guys are at 54 or 60. Those are the guys that Chris Eubanks should be looking at. Now, we know he was looking to get be the mandatory title contender for the winner of Gennady Triple G Golovkin and Murata. He wants to be the winner, the mandatory. Well, he is the mandatory for I believe it's the WBA. He's the mandatory for Murata, but Murata's going to go into a unification bout against Triple G. It looks like that's going to take place April 9th. So, but if Triple G is the victor in that fight, well, then Triple G is leaving the division. He's going to vacate the belt. He's going to go up to 168 and look to challenge 4-division world champion, Mexican superstar boxer, Saul Canelo Alvarez, who's the undisputed super middleweight world champion. And he could do it earlier than we expect, because the fight between Canelo Alvarez and his Cinco de Mayo weekend opponent, undefeated light heavyweight WBA Russian superstar boxer Dmitry Bivol, could be canceled. We know that the British Border Boxing has now canceled all Russian athletes from participating at a high level in championship fights. So you can expect the 3 of the major sanction belts. They already stated that they're not going to sanction Russian boxers, Russian athletes to compete for world titles. And you can expect this ball to roll downhill. You have Vladimir Vitaly, Vasyl Lomachenko, Oleksandr Usyk. They're campaigning and pleading that to not allow Canelo Alvarez-Dmitry Bivol fight to happen. So we could actually see Canelo Alvarez versus Triple G a lot sooner than we expected. That could possibly be the fight Cinco de Mayo weekend, May 7th, Triple G and Canelo Alvarez, and then that would leave the door open for Chris Eubanks to step in. I don't know if he would be able to step in April. That's around the corner, okay? We're already March 12th, so that would be a month away, less than a month away for Chris Eubanks Jr. Maybe they'll push the day back for him and Murata. But with that said, I do believe that, you know, Triple G, he will beat Murata. And if Canelo Alvarez fight, against Dmitry Bivol, he's going to move up in weight. Triple G, that is, and fight Canelo Alvarez. The belts will be vacated, and then he could fight for the vacant belt. But another good thing is happening in the division for Chris Eubanks Jr. is that Jamal Charlo, undefeated 2-division world champion, who's the reigning WBC middleweight world champion, superstar boxer, is going to be fighting former junior middleweight world champion, now middleweight title contender, Mexican superstar boxer Jaime Munguia. That looks like that's going to take place in June. So with that said, he may be able to get the win in that fight. Okay, he pick up, maybe fight for the vacant WBA title, whomever that may be, the challenger. But I just think that Chris Eubanks Jr. is too big to be focusing on welterweights, although they're big names. Okay, Kell Brook is a big name, especially in the UK. Terence Crawford is definitely a big name. He's viewed as, the best welterweight, best fighter in the world. Top 3 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, for sure. Yes, Terence Crawford is talking about going up to 154 junior middleweight and competing at 154. Okay, so maybe this is the reason that the door was open for Chris Eubanks Jr. to make mention of Terence Crawford's name. It would actually be an interesting fight. Chris Eubanks Jr. Once competed at 154. He's not the biggest middleweight 160 pounder, and definitely wasn't the biggest 68 pounder. Okay, but he stated that 168 was just too big for him, so he needed to come back down and campaign at a lower weight class. Okay, stylistically, he fights a lot. He's trained now by legendary retired Hall of Fame iconic superstar boxer Roy Jones Jr. And you can see a lot of his style, a lot of Roy Jones style in Chris Eubanks Jr. You look at his last fight that he had, man, he was looking like a carbon copy of Roy Jones against Liam Williams, okay? But there's much bigger names for Chris Eubanks Jr. in the bigger weight classes for Chris Eubanks Jr. than Terence Crawford. But again, stylistically, that's a tough fight for Terence Crawford. He's big, he's strong, he's athletic, but he doesn't have the best defense in the world. Terence Crawford definitely is a skilled, sound, special boxer. That's the reason why he's considered top, #1 pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. But again, just biting off more than you chew. It's no point in Terence Crawford taking a fight, and Chris Eubanks can't come down to 154, or he's not willing to, I doubt. But the fact that Terence Crawford is a hot seeked out commodity now that he's a network promotional free agent, and many people feel like these fights could be made. So with that said, Chris Eubanks is slightly smaller than Jamel Charlo, right? Jamel Charlo fights at 154, so we have to see, about this fight, but I highly doubt that this fight come to fruition. And again, Chris Eubanks Jr. should be focusing on guys in and around his weight class, not welterweights like Kell Brook and Terence Crawford. There's bigger names right there. There's big enough names. And if you really want to challenge, go to 168, right? The 68-pound division is moving. It's definitely moving. But at 160, you could wait around. Jamal Charlo was available. There was talks of when he fought Matt Karloff and Jamal Charlo fought on that card. There was talks of Chris Eubanks versus Jamal Charlo, okay? And I don't know why it never came to fruition, but that's a fight that Chris Eubanks should be seeking out. I know that he is seeking out Triple G. Triple G has no interest in fighting any of those type of level of guys, you know. But again, you know, look to see what happens with Murata. Triple G, vacant belt, fight for the vacant belt after Triple G, because I highly believe he'll win the fight. And then look to unify against whoever wins out of Jaime Munguia and Jamal Charlo. That's the best bet for Chris Eubanks Jr. But I think he truly needs to stop focusing on welterweights, period. So, again, Terence Crawford is now being seeked out. There was tons of talk that people didn't want to fight Terence Crawford. You know, they was avoiding Terence Crawford. Now Terence Crawford is being seeked out for sure. But this is just not a realistic fight, in my opinion. And I think Chris Eubanks Jr. definitely should focus on guys in and around his weight class, not welterweights. So we got to see what's next with Terence Crawford. Obviously, is Terence Crawford going to fight? There's talks of Terence Crawford possibly fighting former unified welterweight world champion superstar boxer Keith one-time Thurman. To me, that makes all the sense in the world. That was the fight he was, that was his number one objective. When he moved to welterweight, he stated that that was his main focal point outside of Manny Pacquiao. Well, he can't get the fight with Manny Pacquiao. Keith Thurman only loss was to Manny Pacquiao. Keith Thurman fought in February 5th, early in February. Okay, so he definitely should be available in the summer. Terence Crawford is available. That's the fight that needs to take place. Now, I know there's possibility that Terence Crawford could fight undefeated, undisputed junior welterweight world champion, British superstar boxer Josh Taylor, who's going to move up in weight. That's a strong possibility. But for the most part, you know, I think that Terence Crawford, you know, should look to fight Keith Thurman. It's a bigger name, bigger fight, en route to a massive undisputed showdown with Errol Spence Jr., his biggest rival for undisputed. Should Errol Spence Jr. get past Yordenis Ugas April 16th, excuse me. So I think that that's the route that Terence Crawford definitely should go. So let's see how this all unfolds and plays out. But that's all I got for y'all, man. Make sure you hit the like button, drop a comment in the comment section, let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hit, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.